Here we are at GreenFin 24 once again, and we're speaking with Mike Wallace, the Chief Decarbonization Officer at Persefoni. Mike, your company is all about decarbonization. Tell us more about what you do as the Chief Decarbonization Officer.
Well, Paul, thanks for having me with you again. It's good to be here at GreenFin and also to be talking to you again. So thank you for all that you've done for the field. The Chief Decarbonization Officer is a brand new title, and it's interesting because of the work that I've been doing with some of these professional associations over the last 3 years at Persefoni. We discovered a few other new titles. The ESG Controller is a new title. We just talked about it in the last panel. And the Chief Decarbonization Officer is a brand new title. There are about 7 of us in the world, so when my chief executive came to me, he says, what do you think about this title, Chief Decarbonization Officer? It was part of a promotion, part of some changes in the team. And I said, honestly, it doesn't roll off the tongue very easily, but it's very unique and interesting. So as you do, I looked it up on LinkedIn. I found 5 or 6 other people. I'm like, oh, interesting. This is a brand new thing. I'll take that. And as you know, I've been in the field for a long time, worn various different hats for different organizations. So just felt like a nice new thing to take on. Because we're focused on democratizing carbon accounting, my role is really about being the ambassador for Persefoni, finding the right places to put us in the audiences that are out there talking about carbon accounting and decarbonization. And it gives me a lot of latitude to do special projects. I do a lot with universities, a lot with professional associations, industry associations, talking to various government agencies at the federal and state level.
And you do a lot of consulting with CEOs and other high-level executives in many corporations as well, right? That's part of your remit, I guess.
Yeah, so as a carbon management and accounting platform, we're a pure sustainable software as a solution company, a pure SaaS company. So we don't consult, we don't sell billable hours. In my previous life, I was a consultant 2 times in my career with ERM. And in that role, I would do consulting projects to boards of directors, the C-suite, chief sustainability officers. In this role, as part of the almost what we call concierge services, myself, Emily Pierce, who you talked to earlier, Christina Wyatt, we will often give some guidance to companies as they're understanding their carbon footprint, as they're thinking about their stakeholders, as they're thinking about their own position in the market and how they benchmark against their peers. And so it's not consulting in the historical sense that you know me having done, but it is advisory in the sense that we're just helping people get through this.
Okay. And of course, you work across the public and the private markets. And give us a couple of examples, and no names, of course, but companies that you have worked with that surprised you in some kind of way in their approach to decarbonization, let's say.
I've got so many good stories to share. I mean, it's just every day is something different. So, what our founders discovered when they started down this path, they were at Chesapeake Energy. So a big energy and oil and gas, very big impact, right? They were getting the investor letters like so many others were 5 years ago from the BlackRocks and the Vanguards, et cetera. Our CEO was the chief information officer at Chesapeake and the youngest CIO ever. Under 30 years old for a Fortune 100 company. That's a big thing. So he knows how to operate and buy software and integrate software. His team came to him and said, we're spending a lot of money on consultants and these fancy spreadsheets. Not only is it expensive to have the consultants build these spreadsheets, it's hard for us to use them and manage them and improve our performance around spreadsheets. And then we have to get it audited by one of the big 4 before we then serve it up in the public domain and publish it somewhere. And so Contaro basically realized, hey, this is a ripe area for a new solution, a cloud-based accounting solution. So he takes the greenhouse gas protocol, which I used to read as a consultant, and we would do it in a very analytical way. And we would want to know every company's location, every company's utility, every company's utility bill, and enter all that data. And in a certain situation with one client we talked to recently, we're like, so how much you spend on your fuel use per year, right? And of course, the CFO says, of course I know that. I spend the money, I write the checks. Do you know how much fuel you buy by type? You're a transportation company. You buy unleaded fuel, you might buy regular fuel, you might buy propane, you might have bunker fuel for freighters, right? Diesel for locomotives. And the transportation company does not know that level of detail. And that's just one example of how carbon accounting is changing the way financial accounting is being done inside of companies. Another example is from the UK's National Health Service, which is the government body of the United Kingdom that provides healthcare to all of its citizens, right? They put out an RFP about 6 months ago, and in the RFP, they had a simple little table that said, please fill in your scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions and tell us how you got those numbers. Now, if you're the receiving end of an RFP from the largest health service in the UK, think of who's selling into a health system. All of your big pharma companies, all of your big medical equipment companies, think of what a hospital buys. Now you're receiving this RFP and you're competing with 4 or 5 of your peers, and you're suddenly realizing, if I don't dot every I and cross every T accurately, I might lose this $10 million bid. I've never seen a public RFP come out like that, and it really changed the way US companies responded to the marketplace, other than the SEC. The SEC is one thing, it needs to be enforced if it ever passes, right? But this procurement ripple is changing the world very quickly.
Mike, talk for just a minute about the way generative artificial intelligence is interfacing with this whole sector that you're in terms of accounting processes for sustainability. What's the big deal about it?
So think about your own FAQs that you might have read, right? Think about our own interactions on our phone, or booking an airline ticket or booking a hotel. There's always this damn chat feature. Like, I want to talk to people, right? But the chat feature is actually quite useful. Persefoni's founders come from technology backgrounds. They incorporated us with Persefoni AI as our title. AI has always been a part of the formula for Persefoni. As we're onboarding a client, our client specialists, our carbon specialists and climate specialists are talking to the customer, making very good notes and sometimes recording those notes, bringing that into an automated Q&A, if you will. And since it's a very common process as we onboard any sort of company, a private equity firm or large enterprise, we'll go through the same sort of questions. That gets put into a database, that gets turned into AI, that becomes a common question set that we actually make available on our website for you to read if you like, but it's also embedded in our own, in essence, chat feature. So if you're in there and you're stuck and you're reading the information about how to do this, you can type in quickly a question. Very likely we've already had that question given to us by the 300 customers that we're working with now. Suddenly an answer pops up. Other examples of that are just pulling in data, like, and being able to analyze data and identify and discover anomalies. Like, of your 50 buildings in the system, this one has 4 times as much carbon emissions as your others. Is that correct? And that's how AI is being used to implement and expedite and then make things more accurate.
Great. Mike, thanks so much for your time today. We're glad that you're here at GreenFin 24, and we'll talk soon again about other experiences that are unfolding in Persefoni. It sounds like you guys are moving fast.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Paul. Looking forward to seeing you again.